So not everyone has done a great job of saving for retirement. It's just a reality. And you see it obviously more than me, but I talk to some colleagues and have known many over the years who some practice till they're 80 because they love it and they could retire, but they just love what they do. They'd be lost without it. But some are practicing into their 70s and 80s because they have to from a financial standpoint. So if you are somebody who is maybe more in your senior years, or this would be good even for younger docs to hear, to kind of know what they'd be up against if they don't do as good of a job planning on how to get to point X. Are there any strategies that you can recommend for those to be able to accelerate their ability to get to point X, get to financial independence if they maybe haven't done the best job saving?
Absolutely. And I have a great solution for that problem you just defined. You worked all these years, you're now in your 50s, maybe even 60s, and all of a sudden you realize you've made all these sacrifices, put your kids through school, paid the mortgage, took care of your family, and now you realize you're 5 years away from retirement and you don't have enough money to retire.
Mm-hmm.
And you say, you know what, I'm going to have to just keep working till I'm 70 or 80. We don't want to see anybody being forced to work, especially at that age.
Yeah.
So the solution there is we could utilize what's called a 401k with profit sharing and combine that with what's called a defined benefit plan. We typically use a cash balance defined benefit plan.
Mm-hmm.
Doing that will be a game changer. I'm going to give you one quick example. I had a dentist that I met, I think it was about 5 years ago at the Greater New York Dental Meeting. I was doing almost this identical lecture there.
Mm-hmm.
And he came up to me, he goes, John, you know what? I've been working with my accountant now for the last 35 years. Everything you've been telling me, he never told me, but it was so convenient because I'm on Main Street and he's down the road on Main Street, right across the street. I always went to him. He never told me any of this stuff. And what you just told me about this cash balance plan is it's something I can take advantage of. But long story short, he became a client that year. We implemented this plan. And after implementing all these strategies, he was upset. Not with me. He was upset that the last 35 years, he was paying twice the amount of tax he needed to because he just didn't get the right advice. The great news about this particular dentist is, I think it was around 60 at the time. It was about 5 years ago. He's now around, I guess, 65, 66. We've been able to accumulate several $1 million. I think it was about $2.5 to $3 million in that short period of time. So he now is finally in a position where he could say, I could probably retire by the time I'm 67, definitely before 70.
Okay.
So it's also peace of mind. And
sure.
We all make certain mistakes during life because you're juggling so many different financial issues.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a terrific way to play catch up.
Okay, great.
So I'm going to give you a quick example of how this would work. So let's assume it's 2023, the current year. Let's assume one of the listeners right now is 62 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, that was me. The guy I just described a few minutes ago, that's him. Well, what I'm going to be able to tell him is the following. Well, if you're earning enough money, let's assume it's a successful practice. They're bringing in 600 million, $1.5 million in profit per year.
Mm-hmm.
In a really successful dental practice that's that mature, they definitely have the ability for the dentist to make $1 million or more. That's I'm not saying it's easy. Not everyone could do it, but it's achievable.
Mm-hmm.
So let's assume you're also in that situation. Well, what that dentist will be able to do is contribute $73,500 to their 401k, including the catch-up provision of $7,500 and profit sharing. But in addition to that, the defined benefit plan basically says you're now 60 years old, or in this case, 62 years old. You plan on retiring by 67. In order for you to retire by 67, we have to allow you to do a tremendous amount of contributions to your plan. Mm-hmm. So in the example I'm giving you, we're going to assume he can put away $300,000 this year alone into the cash balance plan. Mm-hmm. And I have dentists putting away $300,000, some putting away $400,000 a year into cash balance plans because they meet the criteria. Well, what I just described to you is he's going to put away $373,500 into a retirement plan.
Wow.
Guess what? He was in a 50% tax bracket. half of that money he would have given up to the government.
Yep.
Now the government is not getting a dime of it. And now throughout his retirement years, he's going to have twice as much money working for him. And
Yep.
yes, he'll have to pay some taxes on the way out. But as I said, because of the secret to becoming financially independent, which is the power of compounding, he's going to be much, much better off for it throughout his lifetime.
Yep.
At a bare minimum, mentally, he's going to be in a much better place, because if he walked into retirement at 67 with $1 million, he knew that retirement fund is not going to last his lifetime.
Yep.
But now we gave him the opportunity where he could live out his retirement years with the mental peace of mind to know that it's highly unlikely he's going to run out of money and have to go down that road, later on in life. So very, very powerful tool. So, I could give you examples of all the different retirement plans and when one would be more appropriate for another, but we'd have to have about 5 more podcasts to do that. So we're not going to do that. But I just wanted to give you the two extremes: young guy starting out, solo guy, and then that successful dentist who's been around a long time, but just did a poor job of saving for retirement. So you see the two extremes there, and there's everything else in between. I could help a dentist in private practice figure out what the best strategy would be for them, and we'll custom make something for them that's going to help them get to point X in a reasonable amount of time.